So, dude, I gotta be honest. Those shirts are awesome. How can I get one?
Actually, I wanted to send you one. So where are you? Are you in China?
Yes, I'm in Shanghai. Oh, I'm gonna get an FC Cool shirt, dude. They're awesome. The design's fantastic. Are they new?
They are about 2 weeks old. And actually, we have one more coming soon as well for our staking project. So definitely we'll send you one each.
Thank you, man. No, seriously, the design, whoever did it, props.
Yeah.
When I saw the guy, your picture, your group picture in Moscow, I was like, wow,
Mm.
that's fashionable. I like it. So
Fantastic.
you're in Berlin now.
I'm in Beijing, China.
You're in Beijing now. Okay, you're in Beijing. Excellent. You're back from Moscow. What was the vibe at the mining conference? You know,
Okay.
what's on top of everybody's mind?
So actually, it was an event that F2Pool hosted. It's our first event we've done outside of China. And Russia and the CIS region is a very growing space for the mining industry. So in Russia, there is a number of mining farms in Siberia, in Irkutsk and Bratsk. And, you know, they have green energy. The energy is relatively cheap priced, and the government is quite supportive of the mining industry. So we went to Moscow. Some of the companies are actually based in Moscow, but a lot of the farms are in that part of Russia. And I mean, I think the biggest things right now is mining farms moving to the next generation of hardware. So a lot of farms in Russia and North America are using S9s from Bitmain. But now companies like WhatsMiner, Canaan, in Silicon is trying to target those markets. So everyone's kind of evolving with their data centers. So it's very interesting to see. Yeah.
Now the S9, that's from what year? When did the S9 come out?
2016, 2017, there's different models. Actually, Bitmain is still making new S9s. They call
Okay.
them the S9K, SE, which are basically changes to the firmware. So they're still the same machines, change with the firmware, and they're making them more efficient. So yeah, now Bitmain has the S17, which would be 4 times more powerful and only consumes about double the power. So that's an important consideration.
Now, like for like Apple and the iPhone, that upgrade cycle, it used to be maybe once a year. Now it's moved to like once every 3 years. What's the upgrade cycle for miners right now? What's that duration?
So the most important thing would be about the chips themselves and the size of the chips. So moving from a 10 nanometer chip to a 7 nanometer chip, that has generally taken place around 1 to 2 years. Okay, but even within that generation, there is other upgrades to the hash boards and other things of the mining machines. So let's use Bitmain as an example. So their S9s in 2017, they they actually put out new machines almost every 6 months. So there's been the S9, the S11, S15, and S17, and they also have the T series. So I would say every 3 to 6 months, each manufacturer is making new machines. But we really have to look at the chips, the chip size. And research suggests that the next upgrade from 7 to 5 or less may take longer than previously. Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
like all these mining farms that you've mentioned in Siberia, they were set up, I would think, what, 3 years ago, or is it
Um,
recently?
2017 was when a lot of large-scale mining farms started getting set up. A
Okay.
very interesting graph would be the Bitcoin price from January 2017 to the end of 2017, overlaid with the network hash rate and difficulty. You will see it was just astronomical, you know? And that's because with the price increases, there is a lag time for the machines to be made and to be shipped. So that in those periods of time, mining can be extremely profitable, and everyone's trying to catch up game.
Yeah, and now we're at a place where price isn't at all-time high, but hashing rate is.
Mm, yes.
So, is that an indicator that we're about to see an increase in price?
I would say that it's always the Bitcoin price leading the network hash rate. You know, I've seen in different communities, a lot of people debate this, but that's my personal thoughts. Mainly because it makes sense, but also from what I've seen. So let's have a think. End of last year in November, Bitcoin price dropped from 6K to 4K. And you might have seen yourself, there was all these social media posts of these Chinese mining farms throwing out machines. I don't know if you saw that. it was quite shocking. Actually, it was my first week at F2 Pool. I'm thinking, what am I doing here? But so the price of Bitcoin went from 6K to 4K, and the network difficulty, which adjusts every 2 weeks for Bitcoin, decreased for 3 consecutive weeks by 20 or 30%. Okay, that's how the mining works. So the profitability when Bitcoin dropped from 6K to 4K was non-existent for many operations. Maybe if they had electricity more than 5 or 6 cents, it was not profitable. So then Bitcoin price dropped, difficulty adjusted with a time lag of 2 to 6 weeks, and then again it becomes profitable again, very slightly. The people who really are successful in the mining space have a long-term view. And when the market is like that, they buy machines secondhand from the people who have expensive electricity to sell, and you stockpile. So the S9 at that time, you probably could buy an S9 for $100, maybe $150.
Oh, wow.
2 or 3 months later, a secondhand S9 is worth $450. So you actually, it's very correlated to the Bitcoin price. So
yeah, and that's what's interesting now is that you have this, again, this all-time high on hash rate, but not the same in price. So I guess we probably won't see a significant spike in hash rate until the price starts picking up again.
So with the machines, it's generally a 2 to 4 month lead time from the day you put in the order. Okay. So actually there's still going to be a lot of machines coming online between now and December. Okay. So even Bitcoin remains the same price, the hash rate is going up. It's going up. And then you must be thinking, but if all these new machines are coming online, it must not be profitable for many miners. People are always good at finding cheaper electricity or even free electricity in developing markets. And
free? Where can you get free electricity? Where am I? Because I'm in the wrong place then.
South America, Southeast Asia. But I have to say that these kind of deals are bending the laws, basically. So they're definitely working locally and having some kind of agreement where they split out the Bitcoin rewards in exchange for that free electricity. So that's not what I recommend. I do not recommend that.
I mean, I would also think that you probably need to have a corrupt government official in your pocket.
Yes.
Pull that
That's
off.
why I don't say particular countries.
Interesting. No, there was something similar in Greece where people were using magnets to reverse the meter on their electricity clock, so that way they could mine for free, because the way the system works there is somebody comes to read your meter and compares it to the read.
Right? They always find ways to game the system. Yeah.
Now, in your presentation, you were talking about hydro season coming back in China. So is that, what happens? Is that because the ice is melting, there's more water going through the dams, and there's cheaper electricity?
So how much time have you spent in China? Are you familiar with Sichuan region, Chengdu?
I have not been to Chengdu, but I've heard the best things.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. So basically, actually the hydro season has already started. So it's generally from end of May to end of October. So we're actually kind of getting towards the end. Now, it's, as you said, it's like these mountainous regions. They have a lot of large dams, and this electricity today cannot be transported to other parts of China very effectively. So there's a large surplus. Okay. Actually, there's some large government projects happening today to allow for this transmission. Now, it's as simple as this. They have electricity there. People set up these mining farms. It could be as cheap as obtaining the electricity at 1 to 2 cents per kilowatt hour, and then selling it to a person who wants to host their machines for 4 cents during that hydro season. So basically, they've just got this huge amount of electricity at a good price. That really coincided when Bitmain, WhatsMiner, Inner Silicon, Canaan released their new generation of machines around May. So you can just imagine the cheap electricity, the new machines, the Bitcoin price doing well. That's why we've seen such large increase of hash rate from May, June to now.
So how does this seasonality affect anything we would see in price or hash rate? Would we see a spike during that time in hash rate or price?
Yeah. So there is some good articles by CoinShares about the mining industry, and they've got some numbers that around 50% of the Bitcoin network hash rate comes from Sichuan, this region in China. Okay. So from May to October, it's that high water season, cheap electricity. After October, there is still some hydropower, but the price goes up. Basically, during the time of end of May and early of June, when these farms start accessing the hydropower, the hash rate increases. It was 10, 15% in about a month, if we look at the numbers. The interesting thing will be next year, because, so when's the halving?
It's next year.
May 2020, right? So that's coinciding when the next hydro season will start in China. So we've got all these angles, right? We've got the S9s potentially being unprofitable, where they're the highest selling machine of all time. We've got start of a new hydro season. And then we've got the halving. You know, all these numbers, these dynamics are going to be balancing out with each other. It's going to be crazy.
Now, is that going to lead to the existing players being able to flex their muscles and like wrestle for more dominance? Or is it going to allow a new actor to come into the space?
I think it's for both, but I think it's for those who prepare early. So, okay, so S9s are the most commonly used machines today. If people do not take actions now, their S9 could be worthless in May next year. They could sell it now for $300, okay? They could consider to use that money to buy newer machines. Some people are willing to take the gamble, but I always tell when I talk with friends or clients, you have to manage your risk. That's the most important thing, because by running all the numbers, the S9s will not be profitable at the halving next year unless the Bitcoin price is more than $20,000 plus. So if you want to leave it up to the Bitcoin price, then just keep mining. But I think it's best to have some strategies in place to deal with that.
Interesting. So right now it's going to be whoever is prepared, right?
Yeah.
In understanding that you're not going to be profitable with these machines anymore. The people who can sell them now get $300 back so they can reinvest that. There's also that lead time, how long it takes to order the machine by the time you actually get it. Now, outside of China having geographic dominance right now, where are the other pockets you think are going to pick up, coming into this new paradigm shift in next May?
Cool. So I'll go through a few different regions. Firstly, with the North American region, which is Canada and the USA, in comparison to China, people like that region because it's more stable. The regulatory reasons, but also electricity and everything is more stable. Canada seems to have a slight advantage over the US right now, and it's also based on state by state or province by province. Quebec, which the government in Quebec was not so keen on mining in Canada before, but they're setting up a 300 megawatt project. As far as I know, Blockstream, they're looking at Quebec, but 300 megawatts is a lot of power, and it's supported by the local Quebec government. Then you've got Alberta, Manitoba, which are non-regulated energy markets, but you can find electricity, 3 cents, 3.5 cents. Then there's British Columbia, which is a regulated market, and it's a little bit more expensive, like 5.5 cents. But people are making projects happen over there. Now, closer to China, Kazakhstan is really hot. Actually, I will fly to Kazakhstan tomorrow to see some of our clients and see some of the sites. Hundreds and hundreds of megawatts being built, or already are built right now. The government is pretty friendly to crypto mining. It does bring in a lot of money to the economy. So Kazakhstan's a very hot place. And also ex-Soviet countries, Armenia, Georgia, Russia, Belarus, around that region. So that's another very interesting region. And then I would say in the Middle East, we have Iran. The Iranian government legalized mining 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. But actually, a lot of the Iranian miners are now moving outside of Iran because the government wants a cut. So they're looking for other options outside. So these are the key places.
So let's say I'm an Iranian miner, just so I can understand this. I'm an Iranian miner. It's now been legalized in Iran. I have cheap electricity in Iran. But because I'm going to have to give a cut to my government, I'm going to take my operation, go elsewhere. So yes. Does that mean that I have a skill set which allows me to go somewhere else? Or is it the fact that I've already invested in this hardware? Like, what allows me to just say, you know what? not going to be here anymore?
So there's a few different types of farms. So some are actually like you could imagine a large warehouse or a large facility where they've built out the shelving, built out the racks, they put their hardware in. Others are containers. So you might have seen these containers, they can fit a number of units. Those containers can be moved to other places. I wouldn't say setting up your farm and moving it elsewhere is a great thing because there's always risk of damage and the logistic cost. But the people I've spoken to in that region have expressed that it's better for them to move outside. I think they are concerned about what could come into the future. Where do they look? Kazakhstan, Russia, some in China actually. They want to come back to China and put their machines.
But is it a skill set that allows them to even consider this, or is it purely because they've already made the investment into the hardware?
I would say it's the investment into the hardware because that's what you can pick up and move.
Right.
And there's kind of different phases in terms of setting up a facility. Okay, so I'll share with you. So there's people who specialize in sourcing the energy. So whether it's in Iran or Russia, they will secure the energy and then sell that to someone else. Then someone actually has to bring in investment, actually has to set up a facility, whether it's a warehouse or whatever. Some of them want to mine for themselves and some of them want to host them, allow other people to host machines. So I think the people that are looking to move elsewhere are the ones who are coming on the next level. They've brought in a lot of machines. They haven't invested in that CapEx for the facility. They're paying a monthly contract for electricity and maintenance fees. So they have that flexibility to move elsewhere.
Got it. So you can be at a different layer basically. And if you're one of these layer 2 people who doesn't have a negotiation for energy, you might as well just move around and find somebody who's already negotiated that.
Correct. So actually, when people talk to me about mining being profitable, it really comes into where you're on those layers. So for example, I could be a random guy, let's say in Australia. I'm from Australia, but there's not much mining happening in Australia. If I was in Australia, what can I do? I could buy a cloud contract for mining, or I could purchase a machine somewhere and host it somewhere. So I'm on the very far end. Then it's the people who manage machines for a lot of people. Then there is people that put the machines in a hosted farm. There's people who build their own farm, people who get the electricity. The deeper you go, the more chance for higher profits, but also
higher margins for you. Yeah. Now, you know, with that metaphor, with that example of you in Australia, right? Are you going the cloud route, or are you going the, manage the hardware somewhere else route?
I would do a little bit of everything, but let's see what would make sense. So the cloud mining platforms have got a lot of bad reputation, and actually, I am a customer of the cloud mining platforms. I actually mine myself, and I have invested in a mining farm. So I've kind of got a little bit of experience in everything. I would say that as an everyday person, it's challenging to do the cloud route because these guys, they're totally strangers to you. But it's easier. I can rent some hash rate. I can get some Bitcoin rewards. I can look at the numbers. And when I look at the numbers, I'm thinking, if I buy 1 Bitcoin today versus I spend $10,500 on a cloud contract, will I have more Bitcoin in 6 or 12 months? When I was buying, it made more sense to buy the cloud contracts. But you have to really be comfortable with the risks. If you actually know the people who are operating the farms with the cloud contracts, then it's much better. Okay? But you still have the same challenge if I'm the guy in Australia buying a machine. Unless I've come to China, looked at the farm, met the CEO, there's still that element of trust, unless you have that trusted person in the middle.
Yeah, so, and that goes for any business, right? The further away you are, the further down chain you are, the more trust you're giving upstream. So then let's, because I like this is interesting. If I want to start my own farm, which machine are you recommending? Is it a what's to miner right now? Is it the Ant, because I was looking at the ROIs that you had in your presentation. Do you do a mix of machines based on not knowing what their reliability is going to be on the long term?
Right. So I have to be careful what I say because I'm friends with everyone, all the manufacturers. But let me walk through the process. So I think the first question is which currency you want to mine. Let's assume Bitcoin because I'm all about Bitcoin. So you have a choice of buying a new machine or a second-hand machine. At this point in time, do the numbers, consider the difficulty will increase over time, but I can tell you that in most cases, buying a new machine is probably better, of the latest generation. So Bitmain has the S17, WhatsMiner has the M20S, Canon has the 1066, InnoSilicon has the T3. These are the things you need to think about. What's the unit price of the machine? You should be comparing the amount of terahash to the price and get a number. See which is lower. You need to think about the efficiency of the machine. If the Bitmain has as it improves efficiency, it means in a bear market, when Bitcoin price is down, the Bitmain machine will survive longer, okay? But then you also have to consider about the brand reputation, the quality of the machine, and the shipping time. Now, if Bitmain and WhatsMiner are shipping in December and Canaan or InnoSilicon is shipping in October, you have to consider that missed ROI period,
Right.
okay? So it's never a case of one is the best one. It depends on different variables. But I think considering all of those factors, you can narrow down what looks like a better purchase.
Now, you know, I like that you also mentioned if you're mining Bitcoin. Now, that's not necessarily the most profitable coin to mine. I mean, if you just look at converting electricity straight into a coin today, I from a long-term perspective and whatnot, we can get into that. But what other coins are you seeing that are high in profitability right now?
So that's a very good point. So the ASIC machines can only mine one mining algorithm, whereas if you're mining with a GPU or FPGA, it's much more flexibility. So I would say a lot of the bigger miners drift towards Bitcoin because there's more predictability in terms of their revenue and so forth and hedging strategies. But for the smaller guys, or even the medium-sized guys, if they do GPU mining, they could be mining Ethereum or Ethereum Classic or Grin or Beam or whatever. So it does make a lot of sense. I would say that it's always interesting to keep an eye out of what new currencies are launching their mainnet soon, like proof of work mainnet. So at the beginning of this year, Grin was launched and Beam. And in that early period, that was extremely profitable. It all comes down to your hash rate versus the network difficulty.
Right.
For example, in Q4, there's a project called Nervos, which is getting popular in China and outside of China. It's going to be GPU mined. Actually, they're having a testnet competition right now. That could be interesting. But I think for the GPU miners, you need to look at what hardware you have. The different graphics cards are better for mining different mining algorithms. And then I think consider which currencies you have more belief in longer term because you might be holding them. And then B, look at based on your graphics card, which mining algorithms or which currencies you can mine. If you have a bigger variety, you have more chance for that arbitrage of mining different coins.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just so many different levels of mathematics you need to do, right? You need to first understand your electricity cost and then the cost of the machine, the ROI, but then hedging on the currency, right? You could be mining something that just happens to go into a bear market. You could be mining something that's going to go into a bull market because of some fundamentals that you have no control over. I do want to learn more about Nervos. So it's GPU mined, you said. Is it using a hashing algorithm that's unique to it? Is it the apex predator of its hashing algorithm?
So you've caught me. So I believe it's Eagle Song. So actually, I think they announced their mining algorithm very recently. And I think it was on Friday, they opened up the testnet mining competition. So F2Pool is participating and some of the other large mining pools. You know, this is one of the most interesting things happening in the GPU mining space right now. So for any viewers who want to GPU miners, check it out for sure. So they're using Eagle Song. I'm not an expert about this mining algorithm to know if there's other currencies using it.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that I've learned lately is how important it is to be the apex predator, to be the biggest coin on a certain algorithm. So like Ethereum Classic always has the problem that Ethereum has more hashing power And that's why it's susceptible to, it had happened. The 51% attack happened not too long ago, because of NiceHash, right? You can purchase.
I have a question for you actually. So with Ethereum talking about moving to proof of stake, which could potentially a hybrid POS POW, potentially maybe it won't be so profitable to mine on that hybrid part of POW for Ethereum. What do you think would be the impact for Ethereum Classic? Because I know you're a big fan.
So, right now, I've said it before too, I believe that most of that hash rate's going to migrate over to Ethereum Classic. So I think that that'll help both the hash rate, the security, and the price for Ethereum.
Right. Fantastic.
At the same time, there is a proposal out there to change the hashing algorithm. Now, I discussed this with Nishant in an episode a while ago, and his belief was that changing midstream, especially when you have all of this hashing power potentially coming from Ethereum, is a mistake. But who knows, right? I mean, Ethereum's been talking about POS for quite a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, do you think that that's going to happen for sure in the next, year?
So actually, we kind of have a sister company called Bitfish, called our staking business is Stake.fish. That was born out of the direction of Ethereum transitioning to proof of stake. That company was founded early last year. Now we've branched out to Cosmos, EOS, and Loom and other chains, but it has been a long time coming. I don't know, and I think it'll be interesting for all of these miners today mining Ethereum. Will they move to ETC? Will they even fork Ethereum again and just stick to the Ethereum they believe in? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. I'm not even sure on the timeline, so we'll see.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of up in the air now. And what you did mention is a potential that they fork again and just stay ETH 1.0, I guess. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
and speaking of forks, Zcash just had a fork.
Ycash?
Zcash made Z Classic.
Oh, Z Classic. There is a number of Zcash forks actually.
There are. So that's there's just so many different directions to go in, and I think what you said is the best, which is really think about what your hardware can do, right?
Yeah.
Hedge your bets. Make sure that you have the flexibility to go into different directions, because you never know. The same thing has happened with Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, BSV right now. Now, is F2 Pool operating in all of the POWs? Like, do you also have Bitcoin Cash and BSV production?
So we have more than 44 currencies. So we have Bitcoin Cash, BSV, and Bitcoin. Actually, I think this is one of our differentiators, is the amount of currencies we support. And even from, say, the top 5 POW projects, so Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Monero, Zcash, even Bitcoin Cash, and Ethereum Classic, we have more than 10% hash rate on all of those networks, which no other pools do. So we are pretty diversified.
Now, that is a reason why choosing a pool to join would want to join F2 Pool, correct?
If you're a miner, especially if you're a GPU miner, definitely. But then if you're mining, say, Bitcoin and want to mine Bitcoin Cash or SV, yeah, it's very easy to switch over. It is a factor.
Dude, this has been very enlightening. You have no idea. Like right now, I'm going to be checking out Nervos like crazy, because anytime there's a POW coming out, I think that's all I care about, really, honestly. And I understand that there's POS as well, and I think that that's going to have its fit. But today, that's really where I'm personally focused.
Yeah.
And then figuring out the hash rate. I want to know about its hashing algorithm, so I got to look at that up too. I'll let you know everything I find out. If you have any links for us to share, tell me so I can put them in the details.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can do this again soon, dude.
It was a pleasure, Dean. Thank you very much. I think I could talk about mining for days. So let me know what you find with Nervos and the hash rates, and let's do it again. It was really fun.
Awesome. Take care, brother. Have a good one.
Cool. Thank you. See you later.